Welcome to our pod. And by that, I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. Right now, we are shiting on the Wheel of Time, and we are covering Brando Sando and Robert Jordan's next book, The Towers of Midnight, The Wheel of Time. But before we get into that, Laura, what are you reading, watching, and or enjoying?
So I have only been reading this book.
Fair enough.
It has been taking up like all of my reading time. But as far as watching, I've been doing a lot of rewatching of old favorites. And I've watched a lot of Community. I've watched a lot of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. And
Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
Yeah, and Crazy Ex-Girlfriend I've been getting really into just because I love the musical numbers and so I love picking up on some of the jokes that I've missed before. And it's just a really good show. And then I also like to watch that show and try to like hypothesize like what would have happened if this character did this or this character did that, and try to think about like alternative plots that could have occurred. But
you do like doing that.
I like to do that. That show lends itself for that kind of thinking very easily, but whereas other ones do not. But shows like Community and shows like Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, I like to think like, what would have happened if they would have done this, or if this person would have done that.
Guys, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend is one of the best written shows out there. I just want everyone to watch it. It's my favorite. I love
Rachel
it.
Bloom is awesome.
She's so smart and talented. Oh God.
I just love how real she is. And that's what makes her so likable. But
she's also so honest, because I know she said like she tried to lose, she was like thinking about losing a bunch of weight to star in this role. And she's by no means like plus size, I was
going to
say.
I wouldn't even think to lose weight, but okay.
But she was going to like try to be, you know, quote unquote actress thin. And she was like, no, my size is perfectly normal. We need to see more women like me, you know, like on screen. And so she didn't lose that weight. And like, I really appreciate that. I also appreciate how her look like changed throughout the series. Cause I think at the beginning it was like very polished, and towards the end it was much more accepting of herself. And I was always interested to see how her clothing changed throughout the series. It was something I noticed. And overall just love that show so much. So
yeah, definitely.
People watch it. Do you have any books to just say people should go read this, even if you haven't read it recently?
I'm going to shout out one of the favorites that I think you should read, The Song of Achilles.
Well, it is going on my Laura's birthday month read, so I will be reading it in June for Laura.
But everyone read it, because it's one of my favorites.
I'm looking at it right now.
It's staring down at you because you need to read it.
Staring down at me from my floating book stacks. Well, that's awesome.
Unfortunately, I don't have a lot to talk about at the front half of this episode, because I've just been rewatching things and reading this book that we will talk about. Sorry, people.
I think that's nice.
I am boring.
It's like Laura shaking off the winter with comfort and
I'm getting the
making sure
cobwebs out.
Yeah, you're getting the cobwebs out. I think sometimes like sitting and rewatching some old favorites is great. The other day I watched both Wreck-It Ralph movies for no reason.
And it was fantastic. Seen the second one.
It's cute. It's really good. I like it. I fall asleep to Wreck-It Ralph a lot, really? Actually. It's one of my comfort movies. To the point where I know I fall asleep usually around the time where Ralph doesn't get invited to the party, and sometimes it bums me out. So I skip over that part and I start like a new section of it. Because one of them is needlessly mean in that scene. One of them is so mean to him.
So this is like an interesting thing. So do you have like movies or TV shows that you know you've watched like a million times, and you know something's going to happen in the like part of the TV show or the movie or whatever, and so you'll just like stop watching? Because I have TV shows like that where I'm like, okay, we're getting up to the point where this happens, so I'm just gonna cut it off. I'm not gonna watch anymore.
For sure. I have seen New Girl so many times. Oftentimes I'll skip over the Jess and Nick breakup parts.
Me too.
Oh my God.
That was specifically what I was thinking of. Was
really?
Yes, was that section.
I always skip over their breakup and I just move on to the next section of the show.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love the like build up of their relationship, and when they're dating and everything, when they start to come down off of that the first time, I'm like, oh, awful. Can't do it. I love them so much together.
I know. Their first kiss is one of my favorite first kisses
Mhm.
of all time. I just love it so much.
Also, have
So,
you seen pictures of Jake Johnson advertising for his new show,
yeah,
Minx? Okay, double eyebrow raise. I
I
can't do
know.
it, but I'm very interested.
I mean,
I'm very
I get
interested.
it. I get it.
I said something about that to my husband, like, hey, I saw this like ad for him the other day, or he was advertising for his own show on Instagram, and he was wearing like the 70s or 60s look. I was like, I dig it. And my husband was like, really? That guy?
Okay, so there is a huge TikTok trend that always makes me laugh, which is like what men think the female gaze is. And it's always like really chiseled men. And then they're like, what women think the female gaze is? And it's like Jake Johnson.
It's funny because I think my husband thinks like he understands when I'm like gushing over like Regé-Jean Page or the Bridgerton men or whatever. He's like, I guess I get it. You know, I get it. But when I'm like, ooh, that guy from New Girl, he's like, what?
Again, Hannah has always maintained that her favorite isn't Superman, the chiseled jaw. It's the frumpy Clark Kent. So yeah. I'm never into someone who's like aesthetically good looking, guys. Like, I always prefer personality over like.
I mean, I prefer personality too. I mean, these are TV characters. So
I know, but in my mind, for some reason, I don't know why I do this, but like if someone's too good looking, I'm always like, I bet they're boring or they would not be interested in me. So I'm not even gonna like, they're not even on my fantasy list. It's such a specific view I have. I don't know why.
I also like have crushes on people that it just doesn't make sense, and it's just like it completely their personality, like Adam Sandler. Like there's no reason that I should have love for a celebrity crush on him, but I do. So
that's so funny.
Yeah, I love Adam Sandler so much. But Hannah, after getting off on that weird tangent, what have you been reading, watching, and or enjoying?
I've been mostly reading this week because I'm getting back into like reading physical books or just like I started watching.
You had like a ton of arcs that you read recently.
Yeah, I did. I mean, we mostly talked about all of them. Yeah. But I've been reading a lot, and I started watching The Great, which is about Catherine the Great. It's
on Hulu.
Yeah, it's on Hulu. It's very weird. My sister watched the first couple episodes and she was like, Hannah, I feel like it's a you show. I'm not sure I like it. And I watched it and she's right. It's very amusing to me. It's just like her husband is a piece of shit and he's kind of insane and he's a very spoiled like czar of Russia or emperor of Russia. And she decides he has to die. And so it's her like trying to like get people on her side to commit treason so she can be really? Like yeah. And it's so funny in such a bizarre Hannah way where like in the first episode, she's like trying to find something useful. She's very intellectual and she's also kind of a romantic. So like the first thing that falls is like her romance for this man. And she ends up like hating him so much. And in the first episode, she's like, I would like to start a library because she finds out none of the women can read. And he's like, if I let you do this, will you stop talking to me? And she's like, yes. And then 3 scenes later, he finds out it's for women. And all of a sudden there's a smash cut to the burning building. It's just like, why are you doing this? And he's like, I didn't know it was for women. We don't want women to read.
Oh my gosh.
It's just so weird and funny and like very like there's definitely a lot of like there's severed heads and it's, you know, stuff like that. But it's pretty much just her being like, this man is insane. And then kind of them going through it. And he's like bizarrely funny and how ridiculous he is, and how spoiled he is. And like,
it's Nicholas Hoult, right?
Yeah, it's Nicholas Hoult. And he plays it so well. And she like, it's also really funny. They have sex for the first time. Sorry, the great spoilers. And like later on, someone was like, how was it, your highness? And she's like, it went rather quickly. And she was like, I wondered if I should have warned you about that. So funny. And I've been enjoying that. They are like 45-minute long episodes. So I'm watching it slowly because I kind of like, I think I don't think it's a show I'm going to like quickly watch through. It's one I kind of want to sit with and enjoy as I'm watching it. I also restarted watching Atlanta. I also love that show a lot. Another one I have to like watch slowly. But actually, last night I went and I saw the movie, I want to preface this with, it was my friend asked me to go, and I did not actually want to see this movie, but I did see it. And I saw Morbius. Do you know this one? It's the new Jared Leto movie, which already strike against it for me. I'm not really a Jared Leto fan, to the point where after the movies, one of her friends was like, "Oh, I've seen him in concert," and I was like, "Jared Leto was in a band? I didn't know that." And my friend was like, "Hannah, he was in 30 Seconds to Mars. You definitely knew he was in a band." And I was like, "Oh, right." Like, the amount of stuff I've forgotten about Jared.
He's like one of those people that have done everything.
But like, I also don't recognize anything he's done. He's another Justin Theroux. I couldn't tell you what Justin Theroux did from one day to the next. He just doesn't exist in my mind. But Morbius it's like a Sony Spider-Man verse kind of stuff. Okay.
Marvel.
Where it's not really Marvel. It's under the Sony brand, because Sony owns the Spider-Man stuff. They just rent him out to Marvel. But they do stuff like they did the Venom movies with Tom Hardy. And this was supposed to be another one of those. And Laura, it was terrible. Like, it was so bad. It was hilariously bad. Like, I laughed through the entire movie. Like, it was supposed to be, in its defense, there were a ton of rewrites, huge issues with COVID. It got pushed back a million times. But like, in their mind, they were going to make like a campy horror type thing. And they even got
they just made a campy horrible type thing.
They even got Matt Smith on in one of the roles. And I was watching it and I was like, poor Matt Smith did not want to be in this movie.
Like, he's like, I should have went back and done an extra season of The Crown.
Like, well, like at one point he was wearing like big suits. And they like show him in one scene with his shirt off. And I was like, you could tell he didn't want to do anything to get his body prepared for this role. Right. So he was like, put me in giant suits so no one can tell what's under there. Like, I don't want people to know what's going on. And he was wearing like white sneakers. And I was like, Matt Smith was 1,000% like, I'm not wearing nice shoes. Give me comfortable shoes. Like, I'm not being here anymore. Like, it was so. At one point, there are FBI agents who come in.
What is Morbius?
Morbius is supposed to be like he's supposed to be kind of like, he's supposed to be a protagonist who becomes like a living vampire pretty much.
Okay.
Because he's trying to cure his rare blood disease and ends up like infusing his DNA with bat DNA. Okay. But at one point he like kills 8 men on a ship and he drinks their blood. And then this nurse in New York gets murdered. And literally one of the lines of the FBI agents is like, you know what? You kill 8 bad guys. We don't really care. But this nurse had a family. And I'm like, well, that's not how that works.
Wait, what? Who wrote this?
I don't know. And then there's another line. Sorry for Morbius spoilers, but there's another
that's line. All right. We don't care. We need them.
Where he goes, I seem to have gotten echolocation. And for the newly initiated, that means that I can hear using like my sound waves or something like that. And I was like, oh, newly initiated? This is a movie for adults. Like, who doesn't know what echolocation means?
Thanks for badly defining echolocation for us.
Why was it in your scientific files? Like, it was so weird. And then these FBI agents, they couldn't decide if they were FBI agents or New York detectives, I'm convinced. Because at one point, Jared Leto was like, I have to leave, detectives. And I'm like, they literally just said they were FBI agents. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And there's one female character. She doesn't do very much. She's just there to be maybe Jared Leto's love interest, I guess.
And then killed.
And then, well, that's spoilers. I won't get into spoilers, but like the pacing and the jumps, I was just like, this movie makes very little sense. You don't know when the villain and Jared Leto get into contention with one another.
Jared Leto's not the villain. It's not like a.
No, because he's trying to fight his like inner demon to not drink real blood. And of course he created synthetic blood. So he just lives off the synthetic blood, a la Twilight. We just eat stags. So,
okay.
And also what was the other thing? Oh, his best friend at the beginning, he gives him the name Milo and he's like, my name's Lucian. And he's like, no, I'm naming you after all the other Milos who came before you. I won't relearn your name. And then later,
Lucian's like super, like that's easy to remember because there's like a million Milos.
There are reasons for this, but then later the doctor is like running after this child and he's like, Milo. And I'm like, the doctor wouldn't call him someone else's nickname. Like, and there was never a scene where the kid's like, I want to go by Milo. He just randomly picked up on this other kid's nickname for him. It was terrible. And I laughed all the way through it. And I made so many jokes. And at one point he's like, we're going to have to do this in international waters. And then it just pops over to a boat and it goes, international waters.
What?
You tell us that. We didn't need to know.
Were the Muppets involved?
It was so funny.
That's a Muppets joke.
Laura, this movie was so bad. It was hilariously bad. I laughed through the entire thing. And like, it should have just been, I think they really wanted to make a horror film and then they like backed off for some reason.
And then they were like, we don't know how to.
But guys, Morbius is terrible and Hannah died the entire time. And like at the end, I had not met my other friends before this. And they were like, you two were just giggling at the end of it. And I was like, it was funny. Like, I'm gonna sit there making fun of this movie.
This movie is awful. I have to laugh or otherwise I'll cry.
It was terrible. There also, like, his lab is across the way from one of his patients, and like the lab has live bats in it. And I'm like, that's not sanitary to keep a patient this near bats. Like, keep her on a separate floor. Why is she next door? Like,
I don't understand a lot of this.
It was so bizarre. I read a review where it was like, and then more, it's like two clueless agents. And then it's like, seriously, Morbius, they want him for questioning over murder. And he is back in his lab hours later. Like, he's not hiding from them.
That's
so funny. It's so bad.
That sounds terrible, but
in other news,
glad you watched it.
I read a Ben Fluence novel. I read We Ride the Storm by Devin Madsen. It was for his February She Wrote. It was a fantasy novel. It's kind of like three different people. One is a princess who wants to, like, whose brother is supposed to be emperor. One is an assassin, and one is like the captain of a nomadic like group of people who have like are in a society of warriors. It was interesting. It took me a while. I don't think I was necessarily in the mood to read this book, so it took me a while to get through. I don't think it's a bad book. I think I was just kind of like meh on my feelings towards it at the time I was reading.
I mean, I think the way that you're feeling at the time you're reading a book plays a huge part in how you enjoy it.
Because I kept being like, oh, I could probably stop reading it. I'm only 50 pages in. And then I would look at the book and I'm like, I'm 200 pages into this book. I guess I'm not going to not finish it. Like, I guess I'm just going to read this book now. But I enjoyed it. I will say, like, Madsen does a great job of, like, the captain we follow. Again, we make this critique in Wheel of Time all the time, where it's like, even though it's a group of people who are like, we aren't barbarians, oftentimes the book treats them like they're barbarians.
Sure.
And I think this book was really effective of showing, like, just because a society lives differently than you doesn't mean that they're, thoughtless people, doesn't mean they're barbarians, doesn't mean they're warriors. I thought it did a good job of adding stakes and like better backstory to why they believe the things they believe, and showing the human side of all those things and how colonialism can have effect on people like that. And that was really interesting. And I enjoyed that. I really liked the key players of the book. And I'll definitely continue reading. I will say the writing was a little bit not quite for me. It just jumped around a lot. And I think its pacing could have been a little bit better. And then I read Helen Hong's new book, The Heart Principle.
Okay, is that in the Kiss Quotient?
Yes. So Helen Hong, for everyone who does not know, is a neurodivergent romance author.
Oh, cool.
And she writes books about neurodivergent love stories. Cool. And I haven't read The Kiss Quotient, which is the first book in the series, but I've read the other two.
So you don't have to read them in order then.
It's similar to like the Brown sisters, where like you could read any of those books.
Yeah, and you're not going to miss a ton.
You're not going to miss a ton. It's a romance novel, so guess what? They get together at the end.
Sure.
So I haven't read the first original one, but they always like have some kind of deal with each other. And this one was it's starring like a violinist who became internet famous, and now she's having issues with playing her violin. And her long-term boyfriend wants them to like have an open relationship. So she tries to have like no frills sex with this like tattooed motorcyclist person. And they're both terrible at it, and they like just start hanging out and liking each other a lot more. And during this time, she finds out that she is on the autism spectrum for the first time in her life. So she starts researching it. And then she kind of goes through a huge upset when one of her family members gets really sick and they have to take care of them. And this is like Helen Hong's like most personal book ever, because she drew from similar experiences she had when her mom was dying of cancer. And she, in the author's note, opens up about like how she had a lot of caregiver fatigue, and it's something a lot of people don't talk about. And how she wasn't actually very good at taking care of her mother, and how that had nothing to do. And she, like, Helen Hong is very open about like, I don't think that had anything to do with my autism disorder. I think some people are not effective caretakers, and it drains them more emotionally than it does other people. And we fault them for that instead of understanding that their strengths lie elsewhere. And that really resonated with me as someone who I do think I'm a pretty good caretaker, but I get exhausted afterwards. Like, and there's a certain burnout that comes with that. And I think she really delved into that with with like her main character, Anna.
I mean, I think even the best people, not the best people, but I think even people that their personality leans very heavily into caring for others and being kind of a nurturing type need breaks. There's a woman that I follow on Instagram that she's the guardian of her sister who has Down syndrome, and she also has a daughter with Down syndrome, but she is very like vocal about the fact that she has people that help her out, and that they will take her sister for days to just like go, and they'll take them to work and you know, that kind of stuff. And then she kind of gets a little time to recharge herself. I mean, you can't expect people to always
entirely
be
selfless.
Yeah.
And I think that that's important to talk about, especially like in this book. The emotions really hit me. You know, and it did make me cry. I will say the one thing, like, Anna takes such a forefront spot that the love interest has his own stuff, and I wish we were able to see him go through all of his stuff. He seemed kind of a little too perfect sometimes, because I was like, he's actually been through a lot of trauma, and I'm glad that you gave him that to show like how great he is. But a lot of times I'm like, well, he shouldn't have to deal with this either. You know, it was like, it seemed like he was so good at taking care of her that sometimes it was like, well, he deserves a break too, kind of similar to what you were saying. But I really enjoyed it. I think Helen Hong does such a good job of showing in her romance novels, like, the intimacy is so well done, especially with neurodivergent characters, where they have open discussions about like, do you like this? I understand the meaning behind it, but I don't like that, you know, and it's always through a respectful lens. And I also like this book because I did read The Bride Test before it. And there's like a moment where the love interest in this book story, his brother was one of the main characters in the previous novel. And his brother is also on the spectrum. And so she asked, like, do you think I'm just like your brother? And he's like, what are you talking about? And then she like shares her diagnosis, and he's like, you're nothing like my brother. And I think that it kind of shows, like, I think too many people think a diagnosis of like neurodivergence, everyone looks the same.
Yeah, they try to pigeonhole it.
Yes. And I think Helen Hong does such an effective job at showing like each of these characters is unique in their own way, and they're a whole person, and it's not about their diagnosis. It's about like how the diagnosis helps free them up sometimes, like through Anna's like stuff. She, at one point, like, people minimize it, and she has a conversation with the love interest where he's like, well, does it help you knowing this about yourself? And she was like, yeah. And then he's like, well, then it's helpful. And if it's not helpful, it's not helpful. But like, in your case, it is. And I'm like, I love that kind of discussion, because I think some people don't like certain things and some people do. And it's about what works for you. And I really appreciated that in this book. Sure. And, you know, he was an amazing love interest and he made me giggle and laugh. And I loved it because like, I just think she's really good at intimacy. And I think sometimes those are the best romantic novels for me personally, is showing like intimate discussion over, you know, lots of steamy love scenes.
Yeah, it doesn't always have to be like a ton of sex. It's like there's actual intimacy within the relationship outside of sex.
Yes. So I liked it very much and giggled shamelessly. So
cool. That sounds like a good one.
I know. I highly recommend it to everyone. I think it was really well done. I really like Helen Hong's work. But with that said, should we get into it?
Oh yeah, we got a lot to do.
To Towers of Midnight. Have I seen a Tower of Midnight in these books? Not yet.
No, but nice try for ripping off J.R.R. Tolkien with your towers.
With your towers.
Way to be original. Not.
I know. So we enter in on Lan, who is
back and
much more thoughts. He has thoughts. Are they prolific? No. No. Is he anything but a man with a sword, frustrated with his wife? No. But he's there.
He's back.
He's riding in Saldea and he's riding towards the Battle of the Blight. And people are trying to join him and he's like, oh god damn it, Nynaeve, why don't you just let me die in peace?
I was confused by all of this, but
it's so weird because like Lan
he's like so annoyed. He's like, wow, how could she trick me? Like,
how could she get men to follow after me after I promised her that I would let men follow me into battle? I'm supposed to die by myself and be an ineffective person at this. I'm not supposed to have help.
Halfway there.
I know.
He is ineffective.
And then we hop it over to Perrin, who's dreaming of working at a forge, and he's working in that forge, thinking about Aram and how he died. And he drops a piece.
It's so weird because he's like
piece of metal, and he's like, "It's Aram, like it's Jesus in a tortilla chip."
It's like the Glee episode where there's like a grilled cheese.
Yeah. Where he's like, "Oh, the metal, it's Aram." I don't know. And then he dreams of entering a place and killing Aram. He's really torn up about this, which I get, but it's just like Aram's everywhere in these dreams.
Well, and the thing is, like, Hopper is like egging him on, like, do it.
He's like, think more like a wolf. And he's like, I'm not a wolf.
I'm not. I can't embrace it.
And then we're over to Grendel, who's like hosting Arngar, and they're being punished for losing control of Egwene. And then we find out that Grendel has like some kind of ability to wield the one true power. And then there's like a warning sound. It's kind of like what happened in the last book about Rand, like tearing down the entire fortress with Grendel in it. And we find out that like that actually didn't happen. She just kept Arngar and Delana there and she escaped. And you know, now she's not dead, and she's like, but he thinks I'm dead. Dun dun dun.
Never assume any of them are dead. Never.
Yeah, never. And then they come back to life, but it's never really touched on at all until 8 books later, where it's like, hey, remember how we kept hinting that it was that person? It's been that person all along. That's the John Mulaney joke about his mom seeing a ghost, and then he later makes a joke about like people giving you oversized t-shirts, and he's like, you could use it as a sleep shirt, and he's like, Mom, was there ever really a ghost, or was the ghost just me in a sleep shirt all along? So Grendel's out and about. And then we cut over to Galad, who's weirdly the fascist, not as annoying as Gawain. Go figure. He's actually
still annoying. I
mean, yeah, but less so.
Not as bad as Gawain. Sad, but
I mean,
still
he's
annoying.
Just like he's like, I'm the leader of the White Cloaks now, and then someone comes and they're like, you are not the leader of the White Cloaks now, and he's like, my men will fight you, and I don't want to do that, so I'm gonna let you take me in and question me, but you can't question my men because I don't want a war. I have honor. And they're like,
well, then they like claim that he's dark friend, and he's like, really?
I know. And it's like Asunawa is like, you have to be a dark friend or you couldn't have beaten Valda. And the way Children of the Light are just anyone in Salem screaming witch.
I know. It's just like you do one thing, like, oh, dark friend.
They are Laura 8 books ago going,
they're me at the beginning of this.
Dark friend.
They're me at the beginning of this series.
Dark friend. And then he's like, but a dark friend shouldn't be able to kill him because the light always wins out. And it's just like the logic of these people.
Like, he beat you at your own game.
I know. And then Padon Fane is just wandering around the blight, and he's like, I'm liberated by my madness.
Well, and it's weird because he's like, 1 minute he's like, I used to be Fane. And then it's like, the creature formerly Mordeth. I'm like, wait, what do you go by? What do you go by?
I had like so many moments where he's like, the creature formerly known as Mordeth, and I'm like, oh, Laura's having flashbacks. I'm like, to a man named Bors.
I'm like, who is this?
Oh. And then he's ordering around Trollocs. You know, he's thinking it's a shame that Murdra will now die from his touch. But he doesn't wear gloves because that would mean cutting himself more difficult. And then he's like, it's time to kill Rand. And then we cut on over to a commander who says that they see a flash coming from one of the towers, but there's no follow-up message showing that like they're in trouble. He decides to send a group of men south to take a message about the tower system being broken. He wants to send his son, but his son actually like doesn't go. He sends someone else because the mother of the boy had already lost 4 sons. He's like, you are a man now, go get your sword. And he's like, I'm not old enough yet. And he's like, it doesn't matter, we're dying today anyway.
Fair.
Again, it's like one of those things where Brando Sando was like, I need to like show what's going on with the people. Let's show what's going on with the people. Yeah. And then we cut on over to, and that's the end of the prologue. So
yeah, the prologue's over.
It's over suddenly in like 40 pages. Thank God we're not 800 pages into this book. But like Rand is returning from Dragon Mow. Like apple trees bloom around him. Mm-hmm. He's like, oh, good. I'm suddenly like fighting against the darkness and I'm no longer lost. And he tells like these men who are like, we can't eat any of this. And he's like, gather these apples.
You can now because I am Jesus.
I am Jesus. The apples have come back. And they're like, oh, Lord Dragon, thank you so much. And then we cut on over to Perrin, who is just, and like, this is very confusing because Perrin is back before.
Okay, so did he jump back in time?
He did.
Okay, because there's a moment where Perrin says something like, we've only been married a year or something. I'm like, what? Only a year has passed? It seems like a lifetime.
So I think Brando Sando wanted to like sit with Perrin more after he wrote the last book, you know, because
fair enough, because so many things don't make sense and are bad.
Right. And so he does jump back because in this book later on, I don't think we're covering those chapters yet, but later on he does like Tam comes in and he's like, I have to go. And it's like, but we already know where Tam went.
Yes.
So, and he suddenly keeps referring to Tam, and I'm like, why is Tam there? Is he?
I know.
It's like, did he almost get killed? And he's like, I'm going back to Perrin. What's happening? But it's really just the timelines are all messed up. Fair enough. But he is just kind of like, he's trying to join and figure out what they're going to do. He wants to send people back. Everyone's like, you're a leader. And he's like, I'm not a leader.
I'm not a leader. I'm a blacksmith. But maybe I'm not a blacksmith.
And then he sends some maidens out and sends some people around. He's trying to like keep them all fed and traveling together well enough. Claude wakes in a tent and it's funny. Claude, I can't take seriously. He's like looking up at the ceiling and he's like,
he's naked.
He's naked. And it's like, I don't know if you ever watched the Dragonheart movies, but like a huge thing is, oh God, what's the old man's name? Oh God, but Sean Connery plays a dragon and he always goes, all the stars out tonight. That's like pretty much what Claude is doing where he's like, those don't look like my stars.
Well then,
like,
okay.
Oh, I'm in a tent shrouded in darkness. And I'm like, this is so extra. Like, what is this? But all of a sudden he's saved by a bunch of people who say that Asunawa
it should be
has
noted
been killed.
that he's been beaten and chained. And
naked.
He has. He's not just like lying there naked.
No, he's been quote unquote questioned, which means he has been tortured.
Yes.
And so Galad's words impressed all the other White Cloaks, so they like beheaded Asunawa, which seems like an overreaction, and they just have his head
They're
in
all
the
about
bag.
Overreactions.
That's very true. The White Cloaks overreact.
It doesn't take much for them to overreact.
He's a dark friend. But also
shout it out.
Why did they come in with his head in a bag? Like, can't you just tell them that the head is elsewhere? Like, it's like, he's dead. We chopped off his head. That's enough. I don't
need drama.
Proof.
They needed the dramatic effect.
And
we're here. Here's his head.
And so Egwene is like over in Tala on Riyadh, and she wakes up and Sylviana comes in and they're like, the dragon reborn is here to see you. And all the women are like gossiping about it. And they arrive in the hall and they're all just like really worried about what's going to happen. And if Egwene can control the dragon. And Rand enters the hall and he addresses Egwene. He's talking in an abstract way. And she's like, why won't he just say what he needs to say? And she's like, he seems so much lighter than when I've seen him in the past. And it's like, oh, he's, not depressed and wanting to kill everyone. And he tells her that, he has like Lews Theron's memories and he actually needs them to break all the seals in Shal Ghul to release the Dark One. And she's like, we can't let you do that. And he's like, oh, well, you're going to have to. And then he just leaves.
Is this the chapter where there's the moment where she's like, who are you, Lews Theron or Rand? And he's like, both.
I also just, it's so funny when these.
So much.
It's so funny, like when all these characters get back together because they've all been ridiculous on their own, and then when they have to like be ridiculous in front of each other, they're like, "Well, you've changed." It's like, yes, of course they've changed. And like Egwene almost like agrees to help him break the seals because of Ta'veren. And I always love when people like get swooped up in Ta'veren because like they're like, I want to agree. No, they become like petulant little children. Like, no, I'm not gonna do that. It's so funny. But anyway, that's their conversation. And so then we got him back over to Perrin. He's kind of traveling with part of the Blight nearby. He orders White Swans and Aes Sedai to destroy like this village because they need to, I guess, because the Blight is like encroaching on it. He enters the Wolf Dream and he meets Hopper, who agrees to teach him because he's like, hey, Hopper, can you teach me about the dreams?
He's still like, finally, I don't know what to do and I need help. We've
and
never
poor
talked
Hopper's
about
like,
this for 12
I've been
books.
trying to help you so much and you just avoid me.
And killed me.
And then Galad is traveling and they capture like other people from Perrin's camp and they're like, we see Aes Sedai, there's definitely an army. And he interviews one of them and he learns that Perrin is nearby and Bornhold is like, oh my, he killed my father.
He's a dark friend.
He's a dark friend. She's a dark friend. Sorry for all the people who need to turn this down because Laura and I are going to be screaming a lot in this episode.
Deal with it, people.
And then we cut on over to Gawain, who is being the biggest fuckboy in the world.
He's being Gawain.
I do like that Laura texted me and she was like, I honestly just don't care about Gawain anymore. And I was like, actually, me too. Like, I don't like him still. And if I have to talk about him, I will become frustrated, but only because I literally don't want to care about this man anymore. Like, a queen does not care about this man before.
That point with a lot of these characters where I'm just like, they've become so ridiculous that I just can't even not like them, that I'm just like, this is so bad. It's hilarious to me.
Gawain's whole plot purpose in this novel is like, hey, dude, your only personality trait can't be your girlfriend. Like, do you have any hobbies outside of hanging out with her? No. And he's like, no. And they're like, well, of course she doesn't want to hang out with you. She hangs out with herself all the time.
Jane Austen, you called it. People need to have things to do that are interesting. They need to have personalities. They can't just be going off of their status. Like Gawain.
Gawain just goes off of his status. And then, oh God, this book. And then he hates Rand so much. He just
whenever he was like that murderer.
He murdered my mom. Everyone around him is being like, dude, he didn't murder your mom.
But whatever, he's like, I guess I'll have to deal with that murderer later. I'm like, oh my gosh, you were so dumb.
Spoilers for next week, because I think next week. But at one point, his sister's like, what are you going to do if you meet him? Are you going to kill the guy who's supposed to save the world? What do you want out of this, Gawain? What's your end game here?
Like he could. Matt beat him with a quarterstaff. Like he's going to take on the Dragon Reborn. What an idiot.
He can with his will.
No.
I just hate him so much.
He can't. The only thing that he could do is like maybe hope that his girlfriend would save him.
She's barely his girlfriend anymore.
She doesn't like him.
She hates him so much.
She says like, get away from my room at night. I don't need you to guard it. Like, get out of here. And
then it cuts over and she's like, I'm doing it to protect him. And I'm like, I think you just find him annoying. I honestly just don't run him around. For his protection. You hate this man as much as everyone else at Queen. Come on, admit it.
You don't like him. It's time to break up.
She's me with my first boyfriend, where I'm like, I'm kind of over it, but I've been together with him for far too long to end it now. Maybe it'll come back around.
You've gone too far.
And then I had a 3-year relationship. But he comes in to talk to her and he's like, what are you going to make me your warder? And she's like, you do not treat me like I'm the Amerlin seat. So I'm not going to have my bodyguard be someone who just sees me as his girlfriend. Right. That's a dumb thing to do. And he's like, well, you don't have enough warders. So you need to tell women to take one. And she's like, do you understand what a warder does for a woman? And he's like, no, because you won't let me be yours.
He's like, will you take me as your warder? She's like, no. And he's like, well, why? What do they do?
And then he's just like, of course I don't understand how warders feel towards Aes Sedai. You won't make me one. And it's just like, this is all your fault. And she's like, well, you're not taking it seriously enough. And he's like, yes, I am. He's so dumb.
He kind of reminds me of like an 8th grader. You know how like they kind of think that they're geniuses and know everything about the world. And it's like, you're still a baby.
You have no idea what's going on. You have no responsibility. Live with that. Then she's like, and then she's like, stop guarding my door every night. We think it's Masana in the tower. And he's like, I don't believe the killer is Black Aja. And she's like, well, we know it's not a gray man or a dark friend. So who is it? Also,
and then he says something about like, how do we know that there are Black Aja or something like that? Doesn't he? Am I remembering this right?
Maybe.
He like doesn't necessarily believe in the Black Aja.
Oh God, like, he's so
not
dumb.
This again. We know they exist.
So yeah. Anyway, he like storms out of there. Egwene worries about the effect Gawain has on her. Because she's like
worried. Like maybe I should bond him.
Just to like get him off my back. Maybe we should take that trip.
He's twisted my arm.
Maybe if we take that trip to Cancun, it will save the relationship. Maybe we should try therapy. I don't know. And then she tries tea and she's like, oh, it's not spoiled. And then Morden summons Grendel to chastise her for Arengar's death after she escaped. And he's like, don't make a habit of that sort of thing. And she's like, oh my God, he didn't realize that I meant to murder Arengar. I'm just going to pretend it was a mistake. And she's like,
yeah, that was an accident.
And he's like, that was Arengar's second like birth. So now they're dead for real.
What is it? They say they're lost to the pattern.
Yeah, they're lost in the pattern.
So that means they can't come back, right?
Yeah. And she was Balthamel reincarnated. So Balthamel is actually dead. Good. I don't remember Balthamel or how they died.
No idea.
Apparently they died once upon a time.
You could have just like put some random syllables together and been like, it's so and so.
I mean,
like, okay.
Say Balthamel 12 times fast and tell me it doesn't sound like a bunch of random syllables put together.
It is to me. But then they want to kill Perrin.
I know. And she was like, I did it to corrupt Rand's soul when he destroyed Natrin's barrow. And it's like, well, that didn't work at all. And yeah, they decide that they have to go after Perrin. They discuss the dream spike that he will lend her slayer.
So like finally the dreams are coming into this after this long
millions of books. Also, the fact that they all call him the Slayer annoys me because I'm like, okay, how did they have a group chat where they're like, what are we going to call the dream guy? The Slayer. Like, how do they all know that that's the name?
It's like on The Office when Andy is trying to make something happen for his own nickname and he just like keeps calling himself.
Right? Like different nicknames. And it's like, why are we doing this?
Nard dog.
Nardog. Yeah. Okay. And then we cut on over to Morgay serving tea in one of the funniest sections. And I was like, what was the point of this? Serving tea is nice, Laura. I think I might like serving tea. I'm going to be a good tea server. I'm going to do this and only this for the rest of my life, because I literally texted Laura after this section of like Morgay serving tea and being like, I'm going to be a good servant. Yes, I am. And I said, Brando Sando, I'm going to fix all the women in this book. And I said, Morgay jumps up in triumph and he goes, not you.
Nice try. You will stay bad.
You will stay terrible and annoying, and I do not like you.
We don't care about you, actually.
Tell people you whispered, you abdicated the throne. So anyway, she's listening in to Perrin, and she's like, he's not a lord. I don't like him. He's trying to take away the two rivers from Elaine. Everyone should love Elaine.
I'm not a lord.
And he's like, I don't want to be a lord. Stop calling me a lord.
I've said Burn it like 7 million times.
Banners. I
and
don't like
that's just a front.
Oh my God. And the wise ones discuss using linking to help the Oshmen weave gateways to help people escape. He's like, let's send everyone away from me. And Fael's like, dude, some people want to follow you. And he's like, then send all the people who don't want to follow me. And she's like, well, some of them want to visit their loved ones before they die. And he's like, no, I'm going to punish the people who want to follow me by not letting them see their loved ones. Focus on the people who just want to leave. Like,
just no.
So then as Morgase is leaving the tent, Talonvor is like standing outside so he can profess his love for the millionth and one time. And Perrin calls them back in and he's like, hey, I'm just going to marry you two because this is getting old and I'm pretty sure you guys are fucking on the side.
I'm sick of this storyline, so get married now.
And Morgase is like, that's not how a lord leads. How dare you? And she's
like, I'm not a lord. I'm a blacksmith. You're getting married.
And then she sees maids entering and she eavesdrops on them rather than finding Talonvor, because Talonvor like walks off like a lovesick puppy of like, oh, she didn't want to marry me when it wasn't her choice.
How dare she not consent?
And then she hears that there's a report of a large army of white cloaks on the road ahead. And then Lan's getting more followers. Who the fuck cares? And then
it's
Galad, and then it's like, it's a back and forth of Perrin and Galad.
Yeah, that is.
And it's so many cuts back and forth of like, what's his face being like, he's a dark friend. And Galad being like, well, I'm going to meet with him. And he's like, don't meet with him. He's evil. And he's like, well, I have to talk to him first.
He's like, I can't prove that he's evil. Like, I need something to go off of here. You just telling me he's evil doesn't cut it for me.
It's just not good enough.
Which good for you, Galad, because Gowan would have just like been like, okay, he's evil. I'll go in.
Doing the bare fucking minimum. It's my duty. It's my duty. And then Perrin tells Gaul to offer them parley and give them a chance to return those they took as prisoners because they stole all their food. And then we cut on over to Matt, who's
become very vain again.
He's become so vain and talking about women so often. It annoys me.
Like, he's very concerned with the way that women look, but he's like also like, oh well, so and so looks pretty good, but I'm married, I guess.
I'm married.
They don't look as good as Tuon, anyways, and but that one has like really ample bosom, but her face and it's like, oh my gosh, I could just punch you.
Sarah from Fiction Fans told us that like Brando Sando has got on the record that he does not understand Matt's character. And it's just like, yep, that tracks.
Understand
he
it.
does not understand. He does not understand Matt at all because this is a goddamn mess. But he's just talking about how hot women's boobs looks and how he can't touch them. So we'll find them for his other friends.
And how
toxic
Oliver
male
is
bro.
ugly and now cusses. And then he's like, don't be cussing, Oliver. Like, oh
I wonder where, I hate how many times Matt utters the phrase, I wonder where Oliver learned that from.
Where did
it's supposed to
like,
be
you have terrible behavior, Matt. Maybe you.
It's supposed to be a joke every time. And this is why sometimes men aren't funny. Okay. Because it's a bad joke and it happened too often. So
sometimes they're not funny, Hannah.
I'm being nice. I don't want all of our listeners to hear that Laura's gone on the record, guys. All men aren't funny.
Except Adam Sandler.
Hannah was giving people the benefit of the doubt, but Laura thinks no men are funny. So.
Except Adam Sandler. King of Adam
Sandler. But we also find out that Matt's so vain. He realizes the golem's near because people are drained of blood. And also he's like, damn it, Elaine has not replied to my letter. And it's like, Matt, she's running an entire country. What makes you think she got that letter?
Actually,
like you find out she actually never got the letter. And it's like, yeah, that makes sense. Like you can't just assume people are reading every letter you send.
And also, is this part next when she gets the letter? Because that just,
that's so annoying.
That frustrated me so much.
But first they discuss how they're going to the Tower of Genji, and he's all worried about it. And then the golem attacks the camp. Mm-hmm. He thinks that Oliver's dead, but no, it's just this really nice manservant who we've been with for books, and now he's dead. But Oliver was actually sleeping in someone else's tent, so he's safe.
Because he sleeps in a different place each night or something.
No, Oliver is always sleeping with Matt. He just happened to be somewhere else because he was playing with them. And that's when Matt is like, I'm going to start sleeping in different places.
That's what it is now.
Yeah. The golem mentioned that he's kind of after Noel and Tom. He doesn't mention anything about Oliver because no one thinks about Oliver besides Matt. Right. But Matt is like, but he could mean Oliver, so we have to hide my child. And
poor Oliver.
Poor ugly Oliver.
Justice for Oliver.
The last name of the last episode. And then so they're all going to start hiding. They discuss how they're probably going to have to bring Oliver with them to the Tower of Genji, even though he doesn't want to. And then Jolene pops up and one of them comes up and she's like, can I have horses? And he's like, I like you. So yes. And then, Teslin. He's like, I've always liked you, Teslin. And it's just kind of the departing of the red band and all the people he's been traveling with at this point. And then Jolene comes in and he's like, I didn't like you, Jolene. I never liked you, but I'll give you some horses. Stupid Aes Sedai. And so then we cut on over to Perrin, who is getting ready to ride up with Elias and Grady. And they point out that the White Cloaks don't have Ashman, which gives them a huge advantage if they have to fight. And they kind of just discuss the charges brought against Perrin. Perrin asks for the return of his people, but Galad is like, no, you've murdered 2 White Cloaks and you've been named Dark Friends, saying you led Trollocs to the 2 rivers.
So we will battle.
And Perrin asks for a formal parley, but Galad refuses. And he'll be judged in battle under the light. And Perrin's like, maybe I should take him prisoner, but then he doesn't. Galad is watching Perrin leave after his encounter. Everyone's like, he's a dark friend. And he's like, yeah, but he has people who could channel with him. He decides the right thing is to battle Perrin under the light. The way every White Cloak is we can't lose if we're under the light. What? That's your only argument is well, if we're right, I guess we won't die. What?
The thing that was making me laugh more was how they were it doesn't necessarily make sense that Perrin would have sent the Trollocs in to invade the 2 rivers and then also have been fighting them. But he's definitely the one that did it. What?
So stupid. And then also we cut on over to Elaine, who is, her ego is so freaking prego. She is Gregnant with all the Gregs. And
she says, a good thing Dylan didn't want to be the queen. Whoops.
Also, like, Brando Sando's take on Elaine is the same as Robert Jordan's take on Elaine, but I wish he had fixed her. Because honestly, I don't care about her at all. I find her so annoying.
She is annoying.
Gets a letter from Matt where Matt is like, you bloody person not answering my bloody letters.
A terrible letter. A terrible letter.
Spellings. He's like so dumb.
It's super rude. And then she's like, oh, I miss you.
Oh, Matt. Well, also the way Brando Sando is like, hey, guess what? Matt can't spell. That's how much he hates Matt. He has to point out that, like, Matt is.
It's
so
funny
dumb.
though, because the letter's like, P.S. Tom says that I need to write a different letter. P.S. I'm not going to write a different letter because I just take so much time and I'm getting really angry at him for laughing at me. P.P.S.
Dumbest letter ever. Brando Sando hates Matt so much. Oh, really, Matt? Well, guess what? You can't spell.
You are really bad at letters.
The people Brando Sando hates, he makes into 8th graders.
Kind of. Yeah. Kind of.
Oh, yeah. And so then we cut on over to Min. Also, I don't know, Catherine, who's the narrator voice? Catherine Redding, I think is how you say it. Catherine Redding. The way she has Min's voice in these books, I cannot tell you the amount of times I turned into the youngest petulant child that I was born as, and I would mock Min. Like, Min would be like, oh, Brand, he finally got his smile back. It was so good to see it. And I would go, it's so good to see it. Why am I mocking this character?
Some of the characters, like the way that they do their voices, I'm like, ooh, spot on. Like, I like Tom's voice. But then other ones, I'm like, this is just annoying.
I mocked Min.
Matt's voice is annoying.
Matt's voice is annoying. Yeah, no, I was mocking Min so much, Laura. I felt every time I did it, I was like, why did I just do that? Like, it was deep within my soul that Min needed to be mocked.
Because we're all annoyed.
So
also, Nynaeve's name has become too long because I'm pretty sure Min like says something about her, and it's like, oh, Nynaeve, Mandragon, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's too long.
It's too much. We don't need to know this. But yeah, Nynaeve was like, where's Brand? He's been missing for 3 days. And Min's like, he needs time alone. She thinks about all the emotions she's feeling from him, and there's pain and anguish and despair and all this stuff. And then she's like, if he's gone for a few more days, I'll lead you to him. And she's like, okay, fine. And that's their entire conversation. And then they find out that Katyain has summoned them because Alana has disappeared. And they're all kind of discussing Alana and how they're like, how did we not try to protect a woman who's connected to the Dragon Reborn?
Right.
More?
Why did we
should have used her more effectively? And it's like, because Robert Jordan forgot about her. Okay. She wasn't important anymore. And also Brando Sando also doesn't really care about Alana. It's almost like he just like got rid of her because like in the next chapter, Brand's like, don't worry, they can't use Alana against me. That doesn't work. And it's like, okay, then why is this plot point here?
Convenient.
But then Brand returns. He's laughing and smiling, and Min's so excited to see him, and she sees new images above his head. See, I can't stop.
You're still doing it.
She's so fucking annoying in this book. I hated Min. Like,
I can't disagree.
Min has never bothered me as much as she bothered me through Brando Sando's voice.
Some of the changes are just not the greatest.
No, like they're so bad. And like, here's the thing. After this book, we'll talk about it when we get to the women, but small side thing, like after this book, I'm like, fine, Min will just be Rand's love interest and nothing else. I never want to see her point of view ever again after this book. But I also don't want him to ever talk to Elaine or Aviendha again. I just want it to be Min be his stupid little girlfriend.
I don't think that's happening.
I know, but like normalize Elaine's just It's just her baby daddy,
kids.
and they don't have to be together.
There have to be some more kids.
Oh God. I just don't care because they get so dumb around Rand, and they're so much better when they're not near him. And Min has just turned him. Min is now just so stupid. And Rand's like, hey, have you figured out how to use Kalendor yet? And she's like, no. And it's like, oh my God, I hate every single sentence of this. You keep reading, little girl, you do your job. And so then Rand, like, in the Deus Machina of all Deus Machinas, Rand's now like, I can see dark friends because I have a shining light inside me. And so then he finds a lord and a lady, and they're like, no, the dark one was supposed to protect us. And then, oh God, this chapter.
It was weird.
And then Tam comes out, and Rand is like, oh, and he starts crying, and he's like, Min, I want you to meet someone. And she's like, Rand, I've already met him. It's been 3 days. And I'm like, oh God, I can't even imagine that conversation with this idiot. Like, I've already met him. Okay. Then Egwene makes a trip to Tala Anrad, where she's meeting up with the wise ones, Elaine and Nynaeve. She tells them all about Rand's plan to break the seals. And Nynaeve actually kind of agrees with him. And she's like, you've got to get back here because I need to gaslight you into not doing this. Nynaeve also realizes that Elaine is pregnant. Yeah.
She's been pregnant forever.
She's been pregnant forever. And like Egwene talks to Nynaeve, and this was actually like a Nynaeve chapter where I'm like, oh, he's finally kind of found to like Nynaeve's character a little bit more in this book, where they're like having a discussion, and Egwene's like, hey, do you remember when you were our wisdom and everyone treated you like shit? Could you stop doing that to me?
Yeah.
Nynaeve was like, oh, you really backed me into a corner with that.
Like, dang it.
You make a point. And she's like, okay.
She says something like, would you swear the oath rod to me? And she's like, no. She's like, but you do it for another Hammerlin? Okay.
But also it's so funny because like they're all talking, and Nynaeve, she's like, so I need you guys to come swear on the oath rod, but you will have to do the testing. And Nynaeve's like, I'll do the testing, whatever. And Egwene's like, what? And she's like, yeah, I mean, I've already practiced them enough. Do you think I've just been doing nothing while I'm here? And it's like, you could tell Egwene's sitting there being like, yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
But she's like, okay, well, I'll do the test. And she's like, that would actually help me out because if I could put you through the test, it gives me more clout. So thanks for that, Nynaeve. And like, she also has alarms going off there. So someone was trying to listen in on them. Egwene slams a shield on one of them because it's the Black Aja. And, you know, she burns one of them to death. Alviarin vanishes because she popped up. And Nynaeve suggests meeting somewhere else next time, but Egwene wants to set a trap. And then she's like, I need to find Masana. Nynaeve. Oh, then we cut on over to Nynaeve, who's like getting ready to maybe leave. And it's like bubble of evil. So many things happen with a bubble of evil.
These are just weird and too convenient.
They're so convenient. And like it sets off a fire, and Nynaeve figures out that they need to like blow all this like dust somewhere or something because she's looking for injured people, but she can't find them. But when they like bring all the dust together, it suddenly explodes. And she's like, it's a good thing we pushed all this dust together. It doesn't make sense.
Is it a good thing?
She like also now Nynaeve delves into people every other second, and the amount of time I had to listen to the word delve and think about how weird of a word that is to use in this specific instance. And I'm like, I also thought about like, how's it going to look in the show? It's just going to be Nynaeve standing over someone looking at them and being like
staring at them like,
And then she's like, I see the darkness inside you. And she heals their insanity because that's how you heal people from mental health issues, I guess.
Yeah.
And then she like, right. And then she goes on over to, I've been doing it wrong all along, Laura.
What have we been doing all this time?
Goodbye, anxiety. And so then she delves into Rand, and she's like, oh my God, Rand, the darkness is one with you. I can't do it. And Rand's like, that's okay, but I'm glad you can heal other people. Rand's gotten a lot of mental health.
Don't worry about me.
Yeah. He's like, I'm good. And then he's like, by the way, I can't wield Calendar without some people, and one of them is going to be you, because I like you again in this book, even though in the last book I treated you like absolute shit.
I'd like you to be one of them.
And she's like, of course I'll be one of them, Rand. And then they hug. And they're back to being besties in this book, even though in the last book, like, here's the thing. I get it.
The last book, he was like, I'm gonna possibly banish her.
Well, it goes back to the whole, like, Brando Sando was trying to fix the whole, like, Rand's supposed to have been mad for the last couple books, but then it's like, okay, but this was their relationship 2 books ago, so you just took us on a little, like,
weird offshoot that we didn't.
Yeah, and we're now back to the happy middle we were in already. Like, he already trusted Nynaeve, so this didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
But anyway. We cut back over to Egwene, asking them what they've discovered about Missana, like all of her little helpers. They list the possible ways she could have avoided the oath rod, telling her like the least likely to the most likely. And I'm like, this is so annoying. I don't care. Where they're like, she could have had like a lookalike, or she could have inverted a weave of spirit on a second oath rod. And then they're like, or she could have just changed the sound of her voice so it sounded like she was swearing on it when she wasn't. So that's how she did it, I guess. I don't know. And they tell them that she, like, Missana can get very angry, and you're not going to like her when she's angry.
Didn't like her anyways.
Oh my God. There was also a line in what's the awful movie I saw? I can't even think. Jared Leto says something about like Morbius. He's like, I'm getting hungry. You're not going to like me when I'm hungry. And I'm like, okay, off-brand Hulk. Like, what?
Dumb.
Yeah, it's so dumb. Oh, that movie is bad. And so then Fael is taking care of business in the camp, talking to all her little spies, you know, and she also like noticed that Berylane has the hots for Galad, which Laura and I called books ago.
We said that a long time ago. Like, it has to be somebody that
it has to be Galad.
Is in the Children of the Light. So clearly Galad.
He's the only white cloak we know, who isn't a drunken mess. And she's like, oh, good. Berylane likes him, so I can get her off of Perrin. And they're like, and they're sitting there being like, man, Galad's kind of hot, isn't he? And Fael, in Hannah's fashion, is like, I prefer a man who isn't pretty, but has a beard.
Perrin.
Same girl, same. And she thinks about like how far she's come, and she's like, remember when my name was Zareen? And I was like, no, I didn't actually.
I also forgot about that when you actually like had ambitions.
And you were just and she's like, God, remember when I had like ambition? That was a dumb time of my life. Cool lesson, Fael. Cool lesson. And then she's like, Perrin, come join me for our year-long anniversary. And
that's when I'm like, this has only been a year. You have been married forever.
And then she's like, Perrin, why are you so worried about this? And he's like, well, I killed 2 white cloaks, and I'm afraid because there was a man who became wolf-like, and I don't want to be him.
Yeah, Gnome, right? Was that?
Yeah, Gnome. They bring him up a lot in this book too. And like,
and Perrin smells everything in this chapter.
Oh my God.
My gosh, so annoying. I hate when he smells emotions.
I hate it so much. Again, he can smell emotion, but not urine. So that's canon. And then we cut on over to Matt. He's seeing everyone off as they leave for Tar Valon. He gives Jolene a parting gift, which ends up like it's a prank because, again, Matt's back shenanigans. And also, so like, Jordan has had books and books of Matt's personal growth. Yeah. And then he gives this woman a prank, and someone's like, doesn't seem like you. And he's like, I'm getting back to my roots. And I'm like, is that what Brandon Sanderson was using as an excuse? Like, is that Brandon Sanderson's reason for like pushing Matt back books before this? Like,
I lost myself.
I lost myself. I need to get back. Oh my God. To when I was insufferable and all about those boobs. And then he gets the person who's been helping them to like swear she's going to try to help Oliver, and then he'll send her back to her husband, whatever. And then we're over to Elaine, who like walks up to the kin, and she's like, so like you guys aren't gonna go to Tarvalon, like the kin wouldn't have power there. And they're like, I don't know. And she's like, well, what if you guys stayed here? And they're like, well, wouldn't we be ruled by Andor? And she's like, no, like I would make money off of you. Like Elaine's just setting up a capitalist structure where she's the winner, but she does offer free healthcare, so she is better than the United States.
We'll heal all of those who are sick,
no matter what. And they agree that they'll like send people to travel and all this stuff. And then they're like, hey, should we like try to get help from the Black Tower? And she's like, I don't know what to do with them, because no one knows what to do with the Black Tower, including Brando Sando, because every time anyone brings up the Black Tower, they're like, that sounds like it's a Rand problem and not a me problem. And then it comes over to Rand and he's like, it does sound like it's a me problem, but not right now. Okay.
I've got a big list of things today, but that's
just not one of them. We cut on over to Perrin, who's just learning how to use the world of dreams. He's using it. He's looking through. Oh, I love this part because he's looking at it to like see the white men or the white men. I mean, yes,
yeah,
the white cloaks, to see if there's like a trap with the Ashmen and the wise ones, to see how he could do this. And I love it because he's like, why didn't I do this with File?
So many things we wonder about why we haven't used these abilities before.
I love it when Brando Sando realizes the plot had issues.
It just makes them completely obvious to us, where it's like, you remember how you and I complained about this for books and books, and then he comes in and he's like, I wonder why we didn't use this before. And oh well, we're using it now.
And then Hopper teaches him how to like smell things to find people instead of just smelling emotion. And he like starts attacking the dream. Yeah, and how to like attack and like realize when someone's coming. And then they decide to run for a little while, and they come upon a translucent violet wall, and it extends into the sky. And Hopper is like, this is wrongness. We must practice somewhere else. Then we cut on over to Ituralda, who is like near the Blight. He's fighting Trollocs. They're having issues. He's yelling for archers. He's trying to stop all this. People are falling. He's having issues. We also have Fail, who's like, we're going to deal with this barrel aid issue once and for all.
I hated this so much.
I hated it because like, okay, also, here's the thing. Barrelane was a predator. She just was. Mm-hmm. She was aggressive. She was not taking no for an answer. It was wrong. In this book, they just pretend that wasn't true. That she just was, she just thought Fael was going to die or something. So she was trying to convince Perrin to like move on to her because it benefited her. And it's like, that's not what was happening.
No.
I hated this part.
This is so bad. And then she's like, we'll just fight.
Yeah.
She's like, to the death, and whoever wins gets Perrin.
And Barrelane's like, well, I didn't want to do that. And she's like, I know you didn't want to do that.
Fight.
I didn't think I was going to have repercussions for my actions.
Fight to the death. What? Why don't I just like tell everybody that it was made up and these are just rumors? She's like, it's like way too late for that now.
And then she's like, why don't we just pretend to be best friends? And then
like, no, it's way too late for that now.
I don't know. And then so they decide that they're going to do that. They're going to have Barrelane disavow it publicly, and then they're going to be friends.
Ugh.
And we're going to pretend that Barrelane wasn't bad. But I did draw a better horse while we were sitting here. Look at that
cool.
one.
Yeah,
that one's a pretty good one. Thank you. Just a side little chat.
Hannah and I are working on our art.
Hannah's a terrible artist.
We're working on it.
Matt meets with Elaine. They discuss making fireworks to like collapse everything and how expensive it is. And she's like, I want to hear about this whole you're married thing. And he's like, damn it. And then he's like, wow, Elaine's gotten fat. And Tom is like, how are the babies? And Matt's like, oh my God, what's Rand going to say about the fact that you're pregnant? And he's like, oh my God, they're Rands. So dumb.
And then he like says very bad things about her. Well, not very bad, but like things that bother me because it's like, okay, we get it. You had a thing for Elaine, even though you say you don't. And
I forgot about that. I blocked that out. I pretended it wasn't real. I
wish it wasn't real.
And so Elaine pretty much hires Matt.
Comments about Brigitte too, and like the things that she's wearing, and like
again, he's become
Matt. Shut it.
He's become so much worse in this book. But anyway, so they negotiate her making the dragons, and that the Band of the Red Hand will sign a contract with Andor, to which they can leave at any time as long as they give a month's notice. They're going to help Andor, but they're going to be paid for it. And they get to use the dragons whatever the way they want, but they have to keep them with Elaine pretty much. So they're negotiating. And Elaine gets Matt's Foxhead medallion for 3 days so she can try to copy it. And all of Matt's men can choose to join the Andoran army if they want to. A lot of this book has been like, hey, what if we gave people free will?
And Matt gets a coat.
Oh, and Matt gets a coat. She also gives Tom a position as the court bard and frees him of any illegal activity he's ever done. The next chapter just says Nynaeve takes her test to become Aes Sedai. Like, it isn't a ton of crap loaded into that. Nynaeve is back in Tar Valon. She's going to become the like an Aes Sedai. Well, she's going to take the test.
She's been going by Aes Sedai, but she's technically never been through it.
So she doesn't agree to things on the terms that they've used to done, because she's like, I am Aes Sedai. I'm just doing this test as a formality and out of respect for you guys. And they're all pissed about it. But she's supposed to like go through the test, and she's not supposed to be able to channel except on a 6-pointed star. And then she's supposed to try to help people or whatever. And so she goes through all these things. It's a lot of like temptation. And a lot of times she can't remember what she's supposed to be doing there, but she wants to help people, and she keeps trying to help them. And she keeps trying to heal people. She keeps channeling when she hasn't reached the 6-point star. But again, she doesn't really remember why she's supposed to get to there.
Right.
And then she like sees people like dying in the 2 rivers. She sees children dying. And then she sees Lan almost die in her final test.
Like being attacked by dark hounds.
Yes. And she goes and she weaves balefire. And she balefires a bunch of dark hounds.
Yeah.
And then she gets through, and people are like, you failed the test. You weren't supposed to be able to channel unless you were on a 6-pointed star, and you did it too well. And balefire, are you kidding me? And she's like, literally, I forgot that I wasn't supposed to channel outside those 6-pointed stars. All I knew that people were in trouble. And she was, and like, they're like, will you promise never to use balefire again? And she's like, no, we might need it at Shale Ghul. I'm not gonna be stupid. And then
Egwene stands up for her.
Yes. And she's like, she helped cleanse Sidene. She defeated Morgan. And she's married to the King of Melchior. If you guys don't want her
if we did this right, she shouldn't have been able to break the rules of the test.
Yes. So. Like, she was just too good at that. So I'm sorry, she was too good for you guys. And that's that. And so she does get voted to pass, but barely. And Nynaeve walks up to her and she was like, was the land thing you? And she was like, yeah, but I did it because I wanted to stop someone else from doing something worse. And she's like, also, like, I told them it wasn't going to work as effectively because you put Intella on Riyadh too much. And that's kind of the whole thing. And then Nynaeve makes a gateway, and she travels to outside the Black Tower, where she meets with Morelli, and she tells Morelli she passed the test and demands Lan's bond, saying she is free of the oaths for 1 more day. And so Morelli passes the bond, and she's like, yay, I can feel Lan. I can feel him. And so then we cut on over to Perrin. They are discussing like the reports of the state of the world. Morghese is serving tea, as is her new passion. And she overhears him mention that Gabriel was in fact Robin. She drops tea everywhere.
She is shocked with a capital S.
And again, sometimes it's just so stupid, because Brando Sando writes literally that Perrin's like, I guess I don't get any more tea. And then he's like, oh, I've gotten soft. I used to eat hard cheese, and now I'm sad I don't get tea.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, also when Morghese was pouring the tea, I got so annoyed when she's like, you have to know how people like their tea. Some people want it refilled immediately, and some people want to wait until they touch their pinky to the tip of the glass.
Like
and
things like this, I'm like,
people...
does Sando think this is funny, or he's gotta?
I think it's world building, but also I don't care.
I don't know if it's world building. I feel like it's just like extra details we don't need.
I don't know. But Morbius leaves the tent. One of them tells Perrin about the Sunchen and that the Aiel may declare a blood feud against them. He decides he has to attack the White Cloaks. They show Perrin drawings of everything, of drawings of his face and one of Matt's face. And he's like, these are widespread. And Perrin offers to pay Balor more because he's like, you're too good at your job. And he's like, don't pay me more because then people are going to ask questions and I'll be in more danger. I'm
happy just being a secretary.
Everyone's happy with being paid what they aren't owed. Again, this is a book written in the 90s.
Here's
Everyone's just
fight for your wages.
Yeah. Unionize, people. Ask for your worth.
Don't settle for that, Ball.
This is a book that has the ramifications of trickle-down theory, where it's like the people in charge care about us. No, they do not. They owe you nothing and you owe them nothing. You earned your free wage or your fair wage. We cut on over to the people who are still fighting Shadow Spawn. It's just a lot of Trollocs. They're quickly falling. They're very scared. And then we cut on over to Morgaze, who, again, I feel bad for a lot of women in these books because it's like she just found out that she was under the control of another person, which means like she was in effect like violated on so many levels. And all of a sudden Talonvor comes in and he's like, I'm gonna leave because you don't love me the way I love you and you're torturing me and I don't have any sympathy towards you going through something. And it's like, I can see you still think about Gabriel. And she's like, of course I do. He like had an effect on my mind. Could you just leave it be? Of course I have feelings for you. And he agrees to stay. Just poor woman.
It's just sad that chapter even had happened.
I know. I just did not like it. So we cut on over to Gawain, who like walks up to his little frat, and they're all like, hey, some of us don't want to be warders.
This is the whole thing that just like make me laugh.
And he's like, okay, well, if you don't want to be warders, I'll still let you guys, fight and be like soldiers and not warders.
I guess we can still be friends.
And then he goes over to see Burin, who tells him that he wants something other than who tells him he needs to want something other than a queen. So again, he's like, hey, have a hobby, do something else.
You need a life.
She is trying to control and manage everything everywhere. Can she just not have to control you for like a minute? And it's like every woman with children and a useless husband everywhere. And so then he's like gonna go. I mean, it's true. She's like running an entire like household, and he is so mad. Amazing. She's not telling him exactly what he needs her to do. And it's like, I need you to get out of the way. I need you to not be in this room.
I need you to take a cue.
Yeah, I need you to like just do one feeding in the middle of the night. That's all I'm asking for. Like, don't be up my armpit, as you said in the last episode. But then he goes to see Egwene to be like, I learned I need a hobby. And then he notices a strange shadow outside of her room. He's unable to keep his focus on it, so he realizes like it's something to attack her, and so he tries to save her. He like barely is able to defend himself, but it flees, and then he bursts into Egwene's room to be like, are you okay? And then he's caught up in a trap because she warned him about that.
Yep.
And so then we cut on over to Matt, who's hearing all these rumors about him. And he's like, oh, these are so stupid. How are they even finding out about this? Right. And then Tom and Noel prepare for the Tower of Genji. And they're like, we need music. We need iron. And they need something else that I cannot remember off the top of fire. Thank you. And so they like prepare all that stuff with flutes, with like iron things, and with like,
this was actually like one of the things that I was like, okay, I'm actually like interested in this plan to save Morgaze.
Moraine. Because it actually has stakes, and like you actually need to know. So someone tries to rob him, and the men, and then one of the men he saves recognizes him, and he tries to like kill Matt, and Matt's like, I just saved you.
Well, then he finds his picture of his face in his like money bag, and he's like, what?
He also remembers that Brigitte hinted that she knows about the tower because of a story she told Oliver. We cut it over to Brigitte, who's bored by a play that she's at with Elaine. And she's like, there's a disturbance at the gate. And so she leaves, and she finds out that it's Matt posing as a beggar, dicing with the guards. They head on out for a drink. We find out she hasn't been drinking since Elaine is pregnant. And he asks her about the Tower of Genji, and she's like, avoid that place. And he's like, no, I have to go. And she's like, why? And he's like, there's a woman in there. And she's like, okay, well, she's probably dead. And he's like, no, he's not. She's not. And she's like, it's going to take an extreme amount of luck. And so he throws a dozen coins in the air, and they all come up on heads because he's so lucky. And she tells him that during one time she and Gadal went in hoping to have him healed in the tower, but instead they wandered lost for over 2 months before dying in there. And then all of a sudden they feel like Elaine is in pain, and they rush to help her, which this chapter gave me whiplash because she's suddenly at a play, and all of a sudden she's like,
well, they were all over the place.
Right?
Like, kind of didn't make sense as like how they were getting there so fast, but whatever.
I don't know. But yeah, so she's studying Matt's medallion while she's at the play, Elaine. And then she's able to make some partial copies, which deflect weak weaves, but not strong ones. And these copies do not allow a person to channel while doing them. After the performance, she speaks to a couple of people who tell her that Brigitte is with Matt. And then all of a sudden she's like, good, it's the perfect opportunity. And she, for like this entire book, Brigitte is like, hey, could you be more careful? And she's like,
right.
I know my babies will be healthy, so I'm fine. And she's like, that's pretty dangerous because you can still have healthy babies and die. So
you can still be killed. Okay.
And she's like, no, I'll be fine. So she disguises herself and travels to visit a captured Black Aja with like, she just suddenly decides to do this. There's no precursor to this whatsoever. There's no plan. And the Black Aja woman is taken in by her disguise, believing she's one of the Forsaken, and she tells her that Matt is in Camelin. They're planning an assassination, and also that the invasion is progressing as planned. But like she also kind of lets it slip that she's questioning Elaine who she is, and Elaine's like, don't question me, I'm a Forsaken, and she's doing a terrible acting job. Then Elaine feels the shield on Chesmel vanish, and 3 people enter, and like one of them is not fooled by Elaine's disguise. She persuades one of them, who throws himself at Elaine, breaking a bone and causing her to lose Sidar. And they're like, one of them grabs the medallion and tries to escape, but Egwene,
David Hanlon from accounting.
It's David Hanlon. And Egwene like throws one of the people at him since she can't like put weaves at him. Millar arrives. He stabs Elaine, seriously wounding her. But he forces one of them to heal her, threatening rape on Elaine, which is a sudden jarring move for this book.
Yeah.
But Elaine manages to take hold of one of the copies of the medallion from her pocket, which means, and one of them snatch it away, thinking it's another medallion, but they lose power doing that, dropping the shield on Elaine. She sets the person's clothes on fire. But Millar slits the person's throat and stabs the other one, killing both of them so that he can like capture Elaine pretty much. But Elaine collapses the ceiling on him. He escapes, dropping the medallion. And then Matt and Brigitte arrive. We cut on over to Egwene, who's let Gawain go. I don't know why, because man, he's useless. She berates him for coming into her room. She's like, by finding that assassin, you stopped us from being able to capture them. He leaves her, and one of the guards show him a knife with like that's red, and he's like, I wonder what this is. So, and then he gets like the one guy to take in the younglings who don't want to be warders. Gawain, and then he's like, I'm gonna leave. If Egwene wants me gone so bad, I'm gonna leave. And he goes to Camelin finally. Then we cut on over to Lan, who is like, people keep following along with me. Why are you guys all here? And they're like, because we want to help in the last battle. And he's like, ugh. So then Elaine has to do a week of bed rest. Brigitte tells her that one of them is dead, like all the people who like died, and some of them escaped. And Elaine gives Matt his medallion back, and he tells her he has something to ask about the golem. Perrin is going around in Tala en Riyadh, and they're at Dragon Mount, where Perrin feels wolves gathering. They hear a howl of pain from one of them, who vanishes from the dream. They realize that it's the Slayer, because again, everyone had a group chat. I know, we forgot about the Slayer for so long. This person has not been important. And then all of a sudden, one of the dark friends brings him up, and he's back at it again.
Very important again.
And again, they all had a group chat saying, we're going to call him the Slayer, right? That's his nickname, right? Like a superhero. I don't understand. But he tracks the Slayer down and they fight, but the Slayer is too strong and Perrin has to flee, leaving the dream. After he wakes, he goes outside to chop wood, where he speaks with Elias, thinking of the different kinds of lords he has encountered. Elias tells him, and he's like, how did you not fall to the wolves? And he's like, I found balance. But I don't know how I found balance. It's like, well, Elias, you're the only mentally healthy person in this book. That's pretty much how. And then we cut on over to Rand, who's traveling with Min. They go back to Vendar Evan, where Rand is like, I'm going to help people again. And we're going to heal people and stop them from starving, because I care about people again.
He suddenly has a renewed interest in like
everything,
good things.
I know. And he also like gaslights people, because they're like, hey, all the food like is rotten. And he's like, open that bag. And then it opens and he's like, see, that one's not rotten. And they're like, did you do that? And he's like, no. And it's like, why would you just tell them that you did that?
So weird.
It's so weird. Perrin asks for another like discussion with Galad before they go into war. He is freaking out because two of his Ashamen cannot open gateways, which is going to be an issue for battle. He thinks about the axe and the hammer and why it's important for him to give away the axe, because the axe can only kill unless you're chopping wood. But the hammer can do both. As a tool. Oh my God, it can be used as a tool to build. And then he's like, hey, wise ones and Aes Sedai disrupt the ground in front of the white cloaks to frighten them. So they do that. And they're like, why'd you do that? Because Perrin's like, because it was a warning shot. And they're going to realize our warning shots are huge. Like, and so what can we really do? And they're like, but we could only do that. And he's like, I know. It's very dumb. And Galad is shocked by the destructions and assumes it was the wise ones, because he's been telling the men not to fight with the Aes Sedai. It's so funny the way he describes it, because he's like, if you see an Aes Sedai, turn and walk away from them. And do that.
Do not engage. Do not engage with them,
because as long as you don't engage, they can't attack you back. So you just need to like keep focused and walk away. There's a TikTok sound where it's like, see that toxic person, and we're walking the other way. And so that's
the thing is, like, the logic doesn't work for him though, because it's like he doesn't take into effect like the Aiel women or the Ashamen. So
well, and he was like, oh my God, the Aiel and the Ashamen are much stronger than I thought they were.
Yeah.
And if they can do this, like, he just falls for the trick. And so he agrees to meet with Perrin. But he tells them that if he's killed, they should attack. He goes with the two men. Like, one of them was there when Perrin killed the White Cloaks way back when, that Brando Sando decided to choose as a plot device here. And he's like, you're a dark friend. We think you're a dark friend. You killed White Cloak, so you must be killed. And Perrin was like, Isaac's defending myself and my friends. And Galad's like, I don't accept that. And it's like, what? This is such a weird plot point. I don't accept that. That's your argument. I just get to kill you because you killed some of my guys way back when.
I don't get it. So no.
I don't know. And the Perrin's like, I'll stand trial. And they're like, well, no one can agree on a judge. So we're at an impasse here. We're going to have to go to war.
Which doesn't make sense.
I don't know. It's plot contrivance after plot contrivance. It's so stupid. Because like, he's like, I don't trust any of these judges. So I guess we fight to the death to find out who's right. Sure. So Galad prepares to leave, and then all of a sudden he realizes Morgase is serving him tea. Yes. Oh, because at this point, no one has said Galad's name out loud. They've just called him Lord Captain Commander with no other information. There's no reason for it. It's just, it hasn't come up. That's the reason.
I mean, seems like good enough reason.
Seems a good enough reason for this exact moment. And Galad is like, Mommy, you're alive.
And she's like, oh, yeah, you.
I love all my children equally. I don't care for Galad.
Not Galad.
Perrin suggests her as the judge, and Galad agrees. Morgase is like, totally, I'm just a part of this now.
Except I like Perrin more than you.
More than Galad. And then he's like, Galad, you must release my prisoners in exchange for Alejandra making the verdict legally binding in Gildon. And Egwene, we cut on over to Egwene, who's like, sorry, she's reading a letter saying that Rand's growing more erratic, which she thinks is about him wanting to break all the seals, but it's literally not about that.
No.
But she's like, well, this is good because Darlin, I could get their loyalty, even though they've been loyal to Rand all this time. And so she's kind of just dealing with all that when all of a sudden she finds out that a bunch of the sitters are meeting in secret. And she goes in, everyone's talking, and they're like, we think that Egwene has too much power. And they say that they should dissuade the Amyrlin from calling a war. And Egwene is like, okay, but like, we're about to go to the war with the dark one. And if we're going to do that, if we're going to like say there was a war over Aes Sedai, why wouldn't there be a war of the dark one? And they're like, we just don't think that you should have all this power. And so Egwene tries to pretend that she's getting pushed into something. And she's like, okay, well, I'll deal with all the monarchs and you deal with all the war stuff. And they're like, agreed, we're going to take a vote. And one of them is like sitting there being like, maybe we should hold off on this, but I'm not going to say anything. And everyone's like, agreed. And everyone comes in and they're like, we're agreed. And they're like, no. They're sitting on a bed. And she points out that since Rand is king, now Egwene gets to control all of that. And she's like, yeah, now you guys have to deal with boring things like feeding people. And I get to do fun stuff like controlling Rand. And then she notes that they can't keep doing stuff in secret anymore because it's literally the most ineffective thing in the world. Kind of like saying, hey, there's no judge here, so we just fight to the death.
Let's just fight to the death all the time.
And then she's like
my husband and tried to assault him, fight to the death. Can't find a judge, fight to the death.
Just fight to the death. I stubbed my toe, fight to the death. That chair must die. And so she's like, hey, whenever a sitter leaves the hall, like they need to appoint someone to replace her unless they like definitely agree to it, especially since we can travel now. It's much easier. And they're like, fine, we'll do that. We'll stop being so secretive and awful. And then after the meeting, she sends 2 of the accepted to Camelin for sleepweavers from Elaine as part of their plan. And they leave and people are like, are you sure you should do that? They're only accepted. And she's like, they're going to tell everyone about it. And I want Missana to not think that I'm on my game. So we're going to do this. And I believe that is the last chapter before we are halfway through.
I mean, there's 57 chapters, so 28 or 27 or 28, however you want to do it.
Let's just stop now because
I'm
done talking. So what do you think halfway through?
This is a weirder book, but
yeah,
I still prefer Brando Sando's tone and everything. I just think that it's starting to get weirder. Like he had the last book to kind of feel things out a little, and this book he's messing more with like the plot a little bit, and it's like it's kind of becoming weird, but
it feels like he's taking a couple more chances in this book, which he has every right to. I'm not saying he does it, but they're definitely chances. And I think it's there's some weird choices. Fuck the new Matt. I want my Matt back, who is not doing all this crap and talking about women's boobs again.
We miss him.
And Lan, God, the amount I do not care about Lan or whatever he's doing.
Yeah, just no.
Yeah. So, it's still better than most of the books Robert Jordan ever wrote for the series.
I think so.
They're
more enjoyable.
More enjoyable, but there are choices. This book has a lot. The cutting back and forth between Galad and Perrin is so annoying to me.
I think maybe we were more annoyed and confused with this book because it was so much of Galad and Perrin, and we've kind of tuned out Perrin for a while, and now it's
so long.
It's kind of a lot to have these characters like Perrin and Galad back in here, and they are important again, and they're supposed to be taken seriously. And it's hard to do that.
It's hard. Yeah, it's really hard to take them seriously. And like Perrin and Fael is so weird in this book.
Yeah, no.
It's rough, guys.
Yeah.
But he still is doing great things. And I do feel bad because I feel like he's rushing towards like the ending because he needs to. And that makes sense. And he's trying to do a good job of fixing a lot of stuff. Sure. But there was still a lot to be fixed. Again, having the Slayer pop up, and I was like, I literally forgot he existed.
Same. That was just the thing where I was like, oh, this is back.
I guess.
Could have fooled me.
Could have fooled me. A lot of these books end with could have fooled Laura and I.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that we're gonna get a lot more of Perrin and Galad in the upcoming chapters with the trial.
Right.
So, yeah.
Things I never thought I would say.
But Laura,
this is too much Perrin.
But this is the second to last book.
I know.
So that's exciting. It's weird to be like coming to a close. So yeah.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
We've almost completed a series.
I think Belthamel is like the first one that Rand ever tried to attack. Yeah, they're the first. He was one of the first to escape during the Eye of the World. So he's not even important in the TV show.
A year ago when we were
a year ago. A year ago. I mean, this is probably 2 years ago because like it probably took Perrin a year to meet Fael.
No, I mean like a year ago when we were reading this. A real year.
Ago, the time of the book.
A real year.
Yeah, over a year.
We're not on Perrin and Fael time.
We're not on Perrin and Fael time. It's been a year. I'm gonna walk up and say,
"Oh my gosh!" I thought it was like your 20th anniversary by now. Jeez, feels like ages.
Fael, why aren't you pregnant yet? Everyone else seems to be. Okay,
but people should vote for our indie book that we're covering.
Right now we are doing our indie intermission voting on Twitter. We're very excited. It's been going well.
And Insta.
Yes, it is. You can vote on our Twitter, on both of our bookstagrams, and on our pod's Instagram at OWWR pod. So, and make sure you guys are following, because I don't know, have we announced it that Laura now has a bookstagram called Good Reads, Great Goats?
Good Books, Great Goats.
Good Books, Great Goats.
And Good Reads, Great Goats was apparently taken.
Oh, well, I do like Good
Don't
Books,
follow
Great
that
Goats,
one.
Though. Don't follow that. We're following Good Books, Great Goats, which is a great handle. I love it so much. Laura's been sharing wonderful content, and you can vote for our indie intermission there. It should be well underway into week 2 when this comes out. And make sure that you're following, reading along with us, and rating, reviewing, and subscribing, which is a great way to get other people to join in on this conversation as we really close out our first series in the next like 6 weeks. That's crazy.
And check out all of the indie authors that are part of the indie intermission voting.
Yes, we want to read all of those books eventually. This is just the first one we're covering, and
we'll get to all of them.
We will get to all of them because we plan on never stopping. Never stopping.
It's a podcast that never ends.
It just goes on and on, my friends. And we can't wait to finish up chapters 28 through the epilogue of The Towers of Midnight next week. And be like, be finishing up book 13 of 14. Woohoo! Bye.
Bye.